Welcome back to another episode of Let's Face the Facts. I'm your host. I'm David Almeida. I'm an actor in Orlando, Florida, and every week I sit down with an actor or artist friend. We watch an episode of the classic sitcom, The Facts of Life, and then I hit record and we synopsize the episode and talk about it and lots of other stuff. My guest this week is Wesley Slade. Wesley's my good friend. Wesley is a super crazy talented singer, actor, improviser, everythinger. It's always fun. We hang out a lot anyway, but always fun to actually be recording it and capture some of the times we spend together. He was working quite a bit out of town towards the end of last year, so I'm glad I was able to pin him down for both podcast time and friendship time. Together we watched Season 4, Episode 20, Help from Home, and the episode air date was April 6th of 1983. I'm ready to jump on in and get right to it. Let's face the facts with Wesley Slade. Welcome back, Wesley Slade.
What up? This
Wow.
is my radio voice.
Is it really?
No.
I was about to say you're sounding very chill or medicated, one of the two.
No.
But I don't.
Fun fact for this podcast, I'm on competing medications.
Yay! I was going to say I don't know your life. Well, actually, I do. But we are here in spite of best efforts to keep people from interacting and we're still on coronavirus mode, I guess, in coronavirus
I'm in my
mode.
own separate bubble right now, and David's in his own separate bubble right now.
I'm wearing an entire body condom.
Yeah.
I'm wearing just condoms on my fingers.
We've washed our hands profusely before we started recording this, and we are in the situation still right now where work is called off, and we hope it's coming back around the 1st of April, but we do not know.
Yeah.
And it's a little scary.
Yeah.
But let's step away from scary things and move on to super amazing, entertaining things.
Yeah, like
the
scary
Facts of
things.
Life. The Facts of Life, Season 4, Episode 20, called Help from Home.
My goodness, that's the name of the... okay.
Help from Home, yeah.
Help from Home.
Yeah.
It seemed more like needing help in the home is what it should have been called.
Well, I've been doing more and more business at the beginning of the shows, so let me take care of a little bit of the business here.
Okay.
Original air date, April 6th, 1983. The production date that it was taped was actually in March of 83, March 8th. And was directed by Mr. Asad Khalada, the one who's directed all the other Season 4 episodes.
Okay. Is he known for directing anything else?
Who's the Boss?
Who's the Boss?
After this, he went on to direct most, if not all, of the Who's the Bosses. And that is actually going to come into play. We're going to be talking about Who's the Boss briefly in just a little bit.
That's another show I never really watched that too much.
Yeah,
I knew of it. It would come
I
on
did a
TV
little
Land.
bit. Yeah, I was to say it did go into reruns and stuff.
Yeah.
But Jerry Mayer, the writer of this, is one of the OG writers. He has a credit developed by. So he was part of the creation of this show. He has producer credits for, I think, starting in Season 3 through a good chunk of it, if not all the way to the end. But yeah, Jerry Mayer is one of the original people involved in the conception of the show.
Well, not to get too ahead of myself in any way, but it just seemed like it was directed by someone who was like, I just wish this were Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Really?
I just wish this had some just melodramatic just bullshit. But we'll get into that when we get there. But I was just who directed this?
I mean, there's a little bit of melodrama always in these shows.
Yeah.
It didn't feel off-brand to me, not
I guess.
more than...
I mean, the episodes, again, I haven't really watched a whole ton of Facts of Life. I've seen what we've watched, which is like one episode from season 1, and then like the one that we did on the last episode I was on, which I don't remember what season it was.
Season 2. Baby in the house is what you and I did.
They were younger, and it was still earlier.
Yeah, it was 2. It was about 2 years before.
And that one was very melodramatic with the whole like.
It was.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, the baby. I forgot. We talked about.
I'm
that.
a good mother. Yeah. But so, yeah, I guess like it wasn't necessarily off brand, but it was like really heavy-handed for me in this.
Oh,
but
okay.
Even mainly due to the like almost every single departing shot would leave like them just staring off into space.
They do that so much on the show. We've talked about the long fades, you and I talked about it last time too, about the Thornton Wilder.
Yeah,
our town moments.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, no, that happens in this, and it's like Jesus.
Yeah.
So, but this has got this episode has a lot going on.
Yeah.
So we have to start the show as we always do. Wesley Slade, actor, singer, improviser, dancer, dear friend. I need you to give me a 2-sentence synopsis of this episode.
On a very special Facts of Life, Mrs. Garrett only has 5 seconds, and
True.
And Joe might have some trouble at home or at school.
Okay. All right.
That's how it feels to me.
Well, we're going to get through this. We're going to start the synopsisizing. So we start the show in the cafeteria, and this cafeteria is full, fucking full.
I thought the same thing. I was like, that's a lot of people.
I think that is among the most number of bodies we have ever seen.
And
in
it
the
looks
cafeteria.
like a war zone where most of them are crying, and some are running out of the room, and some are just sobbing at a table, and some are happy. And
the melodrama begins very early because Tootie enters with Alexandra.
That's her name, Alexandra.
Or Alex for short.
Yeah. So she's never been on the show.
She has been on the show.
She has been. Okay.
One whole episode where she was introduced as this new prissy princess.
Yeah.
And we think it was part of the whole, oh shit, Blair and Joe are graduating soon. Do we need to start bringing in other girls and rotating them out?
Sure.
And I think they thought Alexandra might be a good replacement for Blair.
Oh man.
And honestly, there is a lot of her. She's a lot like Lisa Welcho, except she's not as pretty, she's not as talented, she's not as appealing.
Yeah.
She's not as electric, and she's not as fucking awesome.
It's like if a piece of bread got wet and you just threw it on the set and just watched it. It's like, look, she's pretty. It's like, nah.
Yeah.
She was really bad.
She's not.
But like,
that great.
I mean, also, but you can't really blame her too much because for one thing, she's young, but for the other thing, really, is it's not well written.
No,
So like, what is she gonna do?
It's and her name is Heather McAdam. She will be on a couple more episodes before they go, okay, that wasn't a great idea.
Okay.
And before they say, okay, we figured out how to make the show stay together without it having to be at the school. That's coming up in next season, where they go to the bakery.
Right.
But Heather McAdam, though, does go on to a career. She's still working today, and she was on the TV show Sisters in the early 2000s, which was a popular show. I think that was a Seal Awards show. But anyhow, so no, she's gone on to her own success, and this was her on-the-job training.
Yeah.
But when they come in, the good thing is that Alex, being this Italian princess, because she looks Italian and has that amazing Italian accent.
Yeah.
She is did you hear that? That was my eyes rolling.
Yeah.
If you were wondering what that sound was. But the fact is, we do have her as the convenient newbie. So what's going on here, Tootie? Tootie's like, oh, well, this is the time of year that all the seniors get their acceptance and or rejection letters from the colleges to which they've applied. And very quickly, we meet a girl named Emily. Emily's coming back in the next episode or two, but she's not a regular character. And she is inconsolable.
Yeah, and Mrs. Garrett is like holding her, going like, oh, there, it's okay.
Yes.
But she's like, it's upsetting how upset she is.
And then Natalie comes up with her tape recorder, her cassette tape recorder with the condenser mic. And she's like, hey, I'm doing an interview for the paper. So what's it like to be rejected by your dream college? And Emily's like, ah! And Mrs. Garrett's like, really? Really? So we
really,
kind of...
bitch.
So they start this. That's what the conceit is of under which we're working right now.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody, because, when you get your mail presumably delivered to your dorm, you think, I got to go to the cafeteria to open this,
Right.
That's where you do things like that.
Right. In front of everyone so that,
Yes.
Yeah.
So Tootie also explains to Alex that they call them the fat ones, the fat
Right.
letters.
I like that. I thought that was kind of funny.
The fat? Yeah. She's like, what are you talking about? She says, well, if you get a fat envelope, that's what's got all the other applications and dorm assignments. If you get a thin envelope, that's usually a rejection letter. And Natalie says, for once, thin is not in.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because thin is in was a very 80s phrase, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
That's something I've certainly heard, but...
Yeah. So Blair comes in all sad and mopey, and they're like, oh, no, Blair, didn't you get a fat letter? And Blair's like, no. I got 3 fat letters. Psych. And Blair is accepted to 3 colleges: Wellesley, Smith, and Langley. Mm-hmm. Real, fictional. So when they say, which of those are you going to go to? And she's like, Langley? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, right.
It's the most awesomest college ever, and it's way better than those other 2.
And one of my favorite things that she says about it is that, and my other friend just couldn't even get in, and that makes it even better.
Yes.
It's like, oh.
You're a bitch,
Yeah,
Blair.
you're a bitch.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Langley is fictional, and it is going to be very important as we learn, because it will be where, for those who know the show, it's where Blair and Joe do go to college. So then Joe comes in and she's like, well, I'm taking off for home. She's apparently making a weekend trip to home being the Bronx.
Right.
So as she's going, Blair tells her, and Joe's like, oh, well, good. That's cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And the others come over and say, Joe, you haven't gotten any envelopes? And she's like, nope. Oh.
Nada zilch, no.
Matthew Arter thinks I sound like Bowser from Sha-Na-Na.
No, I remember that. Yeah, I heard that. That made me laugh.
Yeah, but he's not wrong.
Yeah, no, he's not. That's why I like that.
So as Joe is leaving, Mrs. Garrett points to her. You've got something fat back there.
No, my favorite thing is that it's like Chicken Lady. It goes, you've got something fat back there. It goes like, she went crazy. I wrote it down because I was like, that's Chicken Lady.
Nobody's ever compared it, but it's so...
Oh, she's so chicken like...
You got a letter. It's in your pocket. You should open it. Oh my God. We're talking about The Kids in the Hall and the character that Mark McKinney does. and he did do it a couple of times on SNL when he was on SNL.
Justin showed me that for the first time. Justin Schneer,
as our phone does tell us. Yeah. No, we were watching that. And I mean, Kids in the Hall, they premiered in like 87 when I was in college. They are my fucking jam.
Yeah, I've seen it mainly because of Justin. He showed me more, but I remember when it would come on Comedy Central, and I just wasn't into it when I was a little younger.
Well, they got worse too as Comedy Central eventually picked it up. Like they were rerunning the HBO shows that the CBC was also producing, but then Comedy Central eventually ponied up the money, and like the last season or 2 was made exclusively for Comedy Central. But by that point, it had petered out. They had a staff of writers. It wasn't just them writing it. It was like it was evolving in
a corporate show.
Yeah,
in a way.
And honestly, it caught fire so quickly. It had kind of burned out quickly too.
Yeah.
And this was an HBO show. This was before everybody had HBO. It's, it was before everybody had a login that you could borrow from a friend. Like, you had to actually pay for it.
I don't know anything about borrowing logins.
Nothing. Never. So, yes, Chicken Lady delivery and everything. Mrs. Garrett notices a letter conveniently sticking out of Joe's back pocket over her shirt, which would normally be covering it, but it had to be tucked behind it so that she could see it. Contrived. And Well, basically, long story short, it's Joe's fat letter acceptance also to Langley. And Mrs. Garrett says, it's terrific, and you even got a partial scholarship. Why didn't you say anything? And Joe says, because I'm not going. And she says, well, why would you apply? And she says, I just wanted to see if I got in. I got in. Now, moving on. And Mrs. Garrett says, you're playing Pac-Man with my nervous system.
Uproarious laughter.
Wow. Yeah.
Pac-Man was topical, I suppose. Yeah.
It was very, very topical at the time, but we learned that it costs $14,000 a year. Joe was getting half of that in scholarship, but she knows that she will not ever be able to afford making up the $7,000. So Mrs. Garrett says, did you discuss it with your mother? And she says, nope, not even going to tell her. And she tears up the letter and leaves. And that's our first Thornton Wilder, Mrs. Garrett looking outward toward the audience.
Looking outward at the... She says, are you going to tell your mother about the envelope? And she rips and goes, what envelope? Like a fucking Godfather line, like, yeah, they'll never see it coming. What fucking envelope, Mrs. Carey?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. Anyhow, from here we go to, magically, we are transported to the Bronx.
Yes.
We are outside Joe's mother's apartment. And Joe's mother is talking into the door, saying, hey, no, she's on her way up. Everybody, shh, be quiet in there. What did you think of Joe's mother? We've just met her, but as the episode ended, what was your overall impression of the character, the actress?
I felt that she seemed to what's that actress's name? My goodness, she was in Noises Off the movie. She has
Julie Haggerty?
Yes.
The one that's a stage manager?
Yes.
Yeah.
She reminded me of her in this way that, like, it's almost like she's just like...
She's not as
she's
docile.
Shaky and a little... Yeah, not as docile, you're right. But, like, just in a way of, like... Just doesn't seem all there to me. Like, there's something off. Like, I kept waiting for it to go, mom and a drinking problem. I kept waiting for something to come up about the mom.
Interesting.
Yeah, because she was just... Because even then, like, whenever they introduced her and she was just standing in the hallway going, how righteous she don't be. I was like, what's happening?
But you don't think when she got into the arguments and when she was really putting her foot down, you don't think that she rose to that, to the strength
No, I think
that
she
needed?
did. I think she did. I just think that, again, like, this was, like, first impression of it. But yeah, I was like, oh, what's going to be wrong with Joe's family? What's going to be wrong with it?
Yeah.
But no, like, whenever she, like, certainly got on, like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she did. But at the same time, and we'll get to it later, but a lot of her points when she was arguing with Joe, I was like, that's not a good point. That's not good enough. That's not a good reason.
Yeah.
But okay, you're the mom, you know, like, you do what mom says, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
You bring up an interesting point where, casting-wise, the thing that stands out to me is, and I like her a lot. The actress's name is Claire Malice, Malis. Mm-hmm. And this is her first of 6 appearances throughout the series. But this is the first time we've ever met her.
Okay.
And casting-wise, she seems really nice. Like, you can tell she is a nice person, and that comes through, and her niceness is in the character. And I'm not sure I ever believe Joe's mother could be that nice.
I was thinking that about halfway through because I remember looking at it and going, she doesn't sound like the woman who would have raised that kid.
Right. Joe is so tough as nails.
Yeah.
No, the dad,
I
Alex Rocco,
believe
you
that.
get it.
Yeah.
But the fact is, she was raised by her parents until 5 years ago when she was, 12 or 13.
Right. And, like, both parents aren't going to be the same.
No.
But, you know, but it is a thing where it's like, you live in the Bronx?
Yeah.
You seem like you're like a Connecticut mom.
Yeah.
You know?
And we had this problem with Natalie's mother when we met her. Natalie's mother always was talked about, and you kind of got the sense that she was like, Jewish McYenta mom.
Yeah, right.
and the actress who played her, Mitzi Hogue was 10 times more white bread than this actress. Like, she's way more devoid of ethnicity.
Which is crazy because they still were like really lean into that with her character.
With Natalie.
With Natalie, yeah.
But in this case, here's the deal. I'm going to, as I've said many times before, to be critical of something is to love something.
Right.
And I really love the character of Joe's mom. But my slight thing is, for those who haven't seen the episode, I'm going to throw out some names, see if you don't agree. Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah.
There's a very Mary Steenburgen quality.
I was thinking about her too. Yeah.
She looks a lot like Toni Collette, doesn't she?
I can see that. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. In the biopic about this actress's life, Toni Collette would play her.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Her voice sounds a lot like Joanna Gleason.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean...
And
I think that leans into the whole, like, what I was saying about Connecticut housewife, kind of a...
Yeah.
Just like that kind of... What would you call it? What's that region?
White bread. Just
white bread.
Just, not, I mean...
Kind of stern, but like a mom, you know?
But there's almost a class or an elegance about her.
Yeah.
They talk about how she's a waitress and she's slaving away.
Right, I don't get that.
She does not look weather-worn. She doesn't look like a woman who has to slave away. I'm not sure I buy that she is a waitress working 13-hour shifts every day. You feel like she'd be more battered down by that.
She seems more like a secretary 9 to 5.
Yeah.
That's what she seems like.
And I'm going to throw out one other name. I wrote those other ones when I pre-watched it. When I was just watching it with you, another name popped out, both visually and audibly. Marsha Mason.
Okay.
There's a lot of Marsha Mason going
that's funny.
on.
Okay, yeah.
And for how I criticize the middle-aged vaudevillian writers, if I'm not showing my age by referencing all those actresses that nobody outside of the musical theater world under 40 will know.
Right.
But she, at the beginning when she's talking in the door saying, okay, Joe's on her way up, and things like that, there was almost a Southern accent. And I'm like, what the shit? She's actually from Gary, Indiana. She's Midwestern.
Gary, Indiana, Gary, Indiana, Gary, Indiana.
What show is that song from?
The Music Man.
Really? Who recently played the role of Marcellus Washburn opposite John Tartaglia as Harold Hill in South Florida?
That would be Wesley Slade. He was okay.
He didn't suck.
It was all right.
So, there are some built-in problems with her. And at the beginning, having not watched these in a long time, I was like, I thought I liked her mom. Why am I having this initial reaction of, ooh, I'm not sure I buy this? But to be honest, as it goes along, I'm in.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's certainly not a problem.
Yeah. Oh, and here's the other thing. When I'm talking about ethnicity or the lack thereof, when Joe does come in and we get the whole surprise, we have a surprise party because everybody knows Joe is going to Langley. So her plot to keep it from her family has been foiled.
Yes.
And then we meet all these relatives, including her Aunt Evelyn. And her Aunt Evelyn is played by Rhoda Gemignani.
That's a name.
Rhoda Gemignani.
I got that from her. I believe that.
Rhoda Gemignani is Ellen Travolta breeded with Lainey Kazan. As in, for those who don't know her, the only other thing we were talking about Who's the Boss earlier. Yeah. She plays a character, a recurring just in a few episodes, but returning character of Mrs. Rossini on Who's the Boss, who is a former neighbor of Tony and the daughter there. So when she used to be the neighbor, and she would show up, and then she would be a thorn in Mona's side, Mona being the other mom. And but she is such a she's like what Andrea Martin is in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Lainey Kazan is the mom in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Right.
But there's such an ethnicity. Come here. Oh, you're our first to go to college. We're so excited for you. This is the sister of the mother. This is not the father's sister.
And what's funny to me, though, is that I was watching it thinking, there's this huge surprise party, and a lot of people show up. It's a big surprise. Not one kid.
No.
Not one cousin.
It's neighbors.
It's just neighbors and old people and middle-aged. Like, the last thing a teenager would want, is to walk in and have a surprise party about a college she's not going to, but mainly, especially with her parents' friends and neighbors, and just going, oh, hey, thanks a bunch.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Oh, it made me upset for her.
Yeah.
I was like, ugh.
The one thing to remember, though, and I just had to remind myself of this. This is Joe's home. Joe lives there.
Right.
When she's not at Eastland, this is where she lives during the summertime and all that. So these are people who are, I guess the neighbors would be close to her.
Yeah,
it's
it's a housing in the Bronx in New York in the 80s. We all know each other. We're neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost like a sitcom or something.
Yeah, right.
And we do have to point out, of the many backdoor pilots that Facts of Life has tried to sell us and failed, this is one where we are introduced to so many characters and interesting characters.
Yeah.
Part of me, and Jerry Mayer writing it, that's another hint.
You know, that was the thing, though, is that, like, once we got into the scene, and then it kept going, and it kept going, I was like, oh, I see what's happening here. We got the, you know...
We have the incompetent superintendent.
Yeah.
And there's a running gag about the door not working.
I like that, though.
Exactly. I like it, too.
That was cute.
We have the aunt, the sister of the mother.
I liked her.
We have this other woman in the very tall, mannish woman with the short bleached hair.
I was about to say that was weird. That
she
lady.
She
but
was.
No, she was just because, like, I mean, she was a fine actress, but her hair was weird. What they put her in was weird.
She looked like a John Waters character, didn't
she? Yeah, that's so funny.
But she would have been. But she was interesting. She had funny things to say. This actress could deliver a joke.
Yeah.
And we had that. And part of me is like, as it was going on, and really and truly, the chemistry between the parents.
Oh, yeah.
They're great together.
Yeah, no, they were.
Part of me is like, as I'm looking at it, I'm sitting going, is this another backdoor?
They probably fucking. Oh, wait, no.
No. Jeez. You straight boys. All you think about
that
is.
That guy's getting it.
He's hitting that. But as I was looking at it going, so is this another backdoor pilot? But I had to stop and think, what would the show be?
Right. Like,
part of me.
Oh, a dysfunctional. They were divorced, right?
Right.
Yeah,
it would be like he has to move back in or something.
Yeah, and so he comes in, and when he comes in, it's Charlie. Hey, it's Charlie. Look, hey, Charlie, did you get out on parole or whatever? Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, we're really setting up. That's Charlie.
Alex Rocco is actually a Bostonian. If you listen to his accent, most people just take it and automatically apply it to New York because he's such an Italian, stereotype.
I guess I could
type
see
of guy.
that.
But no, it's actually, if you listen closely, his dialect is a lot of Boston going on there.
That's funny.
But, the character, the neighbor, Mrs. Waldman. Mrs. Waldman is the one that the superintendent says, hey, Joe, I did the poster. And she's like, he draws like he fixes doorknobs.
Yeah.
And later she says, Joe, I'm so proud of you. I always believed in you, even when you were a bum with that gang.
Yeah.
I'm like, girl, I'm on board
Yeah.
for the backhanded compliments. I love that shit. But yeah, very quickly, Joe goes to the mother and says, thank you for this party, but I'm not going to college. We can't afford it. And she's like, what do you mean? And she says, I don't want you working all these jobs. You've been doing this already with Eastland. And this is where Rose is the name of the mother. Rose says, well, it just so happens that I have $900 in savings.
And this is where Wesley went, because it's just gotten to money talk.
Yeah.
For the rest of the
And
scene.
I know, money is so tedious. Who wants to get mixed up with that?
Oh, my God.
But basically, she invested it in a stock. And she says, I gave it to your father because he works for a brokerage firm.
Okay.
And so she said, and I told him to invest it in this stock. And apparently, she has followed the stock, but has never received a statement balance from this brokerage firm telling her what money she has. Because in her mind, this company did so well and split and got bought out that her $900 is now valued at $5,000.
What?
And that can't happen if it's, like Google or Xerox or Starbucks or something. But anyway, that's
Amazon,
fine.
Costco.
Yeah. But then Charlie shows up. And Charlie is the dad. Alex Rocco is awesome. He has been on the show before.
As her dad?
As her dad.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'll do you one better. This is his second of 11 appearances on The Facts of Life as Nancy McKeon's dad, and he would go on to play her father in 2 more TV series.
Wow.
At her request, because they became very close.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yep. And it was actually a question on Jeopardy. What actress had the same father in 3 different TV series?
Oh, that's funny.
The answer was Nancy McKeon, The Facts of Life, The Division, and there was another show she did called Can't Hurry Love. That was more of a...
That classic.
Yeah, everyone...
Everyone remembers Can't Hurry Love.
Yep. And he even said in an interview talking about it, he said, yeah, so Nancy McKeon's made me a few dollars over the years. It's like, you go, boy. So with the arrival of Charlie, the dad, this episode deserves some serious writing props because unlike many 80s sitcoms, it did refer back to what we already knew about the character and restated or built upon it. Meaning, Evelyn, first thing she says, "Oh, Charlie, does your parole officer know you're here?" And we immediately build this antagonistic relationship between the two of them. But yeah, he was in prison. When we last saw him he got out of prison and was visiting Joe.
I remember that.
He was in prison for stealing typewriters. Later, Rose does say directly to him, the last time I trusted you or something, you got held up in jail. Well, I would rather just cross my fingers and hope for the best than steal a factory full of typewriters. And he says, I didn't steal no typewriters. I just left the door unlocked.
Yeah.
Which was funny. And nobody laughed because they were not wanting a joke at that point.
Yeah.
We also...
There was a few more times where that happened, where it got like heavy. And then all of a sudden they were like, here's a joke. And I was like, no.
And that can work. That can have its place,
sometimes.
But it didn't always work here.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that when she said... and I gave the money to your dad because he works for that stock brokerage firm. I thought, oh my God, he mentioned to Blair that while he was in prison, he was reading up and he was interested in the stock market and was thinking of looking at that as a career for when he got out. I was like,
that's nice.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
They hit all the points that connect it to this episode from 2 years before.
Like that stuff.
And 80s sitcoms are not known for consistency and integrity like that.
They could have literally just been like, fuck it.
Yeah. So the party's underway.
Yes.
And poor Rose gets called away. And she says the fight is on cable down at the bar. So Sam called and needs his best waitress there. Mm-hmm. So she had to go off and leave the party to go to work. And everyone was just like, oh, that's too bad. Bye.
Yeah.
No, fuck that guy. You got
come on, hang out. Yeah.
Tell him to suck your titties.
Gotta
Jesus.
leave. See ya.
The Bronx. They're awfully conciliatory Bronxians.
Oh yes, of course.
Joe mentions to the dad, so mom says that you invested this money and that's going to be what helps pay for this. And he says, oh, that stock tip. Yeah, I didn't buy that stock.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? And he said, it was something like, what did he call it? Say, tomatoes are us?
Yes. That's what it
the
was.
stock that allegedly did so well. But he's like, no, I put it in a safe money market. And now that $900 is worth $990. Yeah. Don't. So we don't have no $5,000. And Joe is very disappointed.
Yeah.
But then the next scene we go to later that same night, Joe is comforting the mother. So she's gone to work and come home. And she's not as mad as you'd think over this investment going awry. So she says, we're just going to go to plan B. And she says, what's plan B? She says, being broke, but I'm going to figure it out. And Joe is like, I can't go now. I'm just not going to go. And then she says, I'm just going to move home. I'm going to get a job. And I'm just going to work.
And she's seemed happy about it. I'm sure she'd like to go to the college, but I think there's also some people who are cool with that.
Yeah.
And if they get in their mind that that's what they got to do, it's like, well.
Yeah. That's part of my rewrite. We're going to address that when I give my notes at the end. Joe says, and the mother has a great line. She says, I don't want a roommate. I want a daughter with a future. And it's like, Okay. And then, and this is, she's doing this angrily while she's taking down the party decorations. And then Joe says, I'm not going, and that's final. And she rips down the poster that the super put up and looks like she was going to go into the other room.
Yeah.
But she instead just walks over to the doorway.
And this is where the Thornton Wilder thing comes back in.
Just to frame it, and then they just stop there. And so she just
stops,
stands
and then she
silence.
turns back around and looks off into the corner of the room.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, God.
It's just not good. Guys, come on.
Case closed.
Yeah. So we go on to the next morning, and Rose is in a nightgown, and she's cooking something on the stove. Joe wakes up. She starts looking at the want ads, and Rose is like, no, I don't want you looking for a job. Let's talk more about this. And then knock at the door. It's Charlie.
Wait. And one of my favorite jokes. She goes, oh, look, Ma, here's an ad for Avon. I'm a shoe-in. And huge laugh. Because she's a lesbo.
No, she's not.
She would never work at the Avon.
She could be an Avon lady.
I guess lesbos can be Avon ladies. But I don't know that she would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Knock.
And the dad comes in.
Yeah, but who is it? It's me, your father.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
How does he know? Does he recognize Joe's voice versus Rose's voice?
Right.
That was so weird.
That were like, who is it? It's me. Oh, it's Dad.
Yeah.
You know?
It's me, yeah. But yeah, that is weird. That's sitcom writing for you.
Yeah.
So he comes in, and it's the same thing. We got to talk about this. And it's just all this talking back and forth.
I'm going to fix everything. And that's what, like, sets them all off.
Yeah.
Like,
and there is an interesting dynamic where he says, this is me talking now. You can't mess with me the way you mess with her. And Rose rightfully says, what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing. And this is where they break out into a fight over the prison and the typewriter stuff we talked about earlier. And
They fight for a while.
Huh?
They fight for what feels like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like
it's
a minute.
Good,
but like
it builds to the point where Joe says, stop it.
Yeah.
I thought I was done with listening to the two of you fight. I'm done. And she leaves.
And I have a place to go now. I don't have to.
I don't have to be here. So she leaves to go back to Eastland. And the convenient thing earlier of the door getting stuck, she leaves and they can't get out.
Right.
To go after her and tell her to stop.
And like now we're laughing again.
And now we're back at Eastland.
Yes.
Now we go back to the cafeteria. Tootie, Alex, and Natalie are sitting around. We remember horny Natalie is a beauty to behold.
Yeah.
Earlier, Blair decided she has to purge her wardrobe to get ready for college.
Right.
So all the girls were like vultures, like, fuck, I want some of those cast-offs and hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
Well, Natalie comes in wearing a cowboy hat,
Right.
which we have never, ever seen Blair wear.
Sure.
And she says, look, I got it from Blair. Now all I need is a cowboy to go with it. Waka waka. It's like Sally from the Dick Van Dyke Show. Jesus.
Yeah, right. I'm totally not a lesbian.
Yeah. No, Natalie?
No, but that's Sally from the Dick
Sally,
Van Dyke
yeah.
Show.
Yeah.
Hey, you got a brother.
I got it.
Hey,
I share a birthday with Rosemarie.
Oh, really?
I do. We share a birthday.
I love her.
I do too. And the documentary on Amazon Prime is magnificent.
It is very good.
Wait for your laugh. Yes.
Yes.
So then Joe comes in and they're like, oh, you're back early. Well, they found the envelope, and we now know that Tootie and Natalie know about the Langley thing, and they're like, why are you not going to go? Before we even have a chance to get into all this,
Yeah.
the parents come in, Charlie and Rose, and they're like, let's discuss this as a family. So they sit down. They say they want to pool their resources.
Well, they also said they when they came in, they went, well, it took us a while to get here because Mr. Bonaducci or whatever his name had to let us out.
Yeah, had to let
the
us
guy who
out.
fixes the door, he had to let them out. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yes. And she says, I don't want to hear you argue anymore. And he says, no, we discussed it calmly on the trip up here. And Peekskill is like an hour or so outside of the city.
I figured.
And probably longer from one of the boroughs. But
Yeah.
But the deal is, they say that they're going to pool their resources. And the mother says, yeah, we had a short discussion about mine because I have nothing.
Yeah.
And liar, you have $990, bitch. Hand it over.
Right.
But then the dad says he's now making $195 a week. It's so fascinating when they actually put out amounts like this.
Yeah.
So in 1983, how much was $195 a week, Wesley? What do you think that translates to in modern times?
Oh my God. See, when they said that, I was even like, oh. I really have no idea, so I'm just going to throw a dart and try to hit it. $250.
More than double that.
Really? I was thinking like it wouldn't be good.
Yeah. He's making $195 a week, which was $4.88 an hour. And that was a good salary, because in modern 2020 equivalents, that is the same as $513.42, which is almost the Gong Show prize money amount, $516.32, which is $12.84 an hour. So
Wow.
a full-time job as a runner, I mean, he's not stock trading and broking. As a runner, that means he's just like a gopher and running things and delivering things. So, and he's one of the best paid. So I don't know if that's accurate, what a runner made in those days, or even if I'm understanding the career properly. But it's $12.84 an hour. So if you're making $12.84 an hour nowadays, that's good money. That's not great drop dead, oh my God money. But he does say our biggest asset is your education. And finally, the mother, Rose, just says, look, we couldn't afford Eastland either, and yet you're graduating in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And she says,
She says that.
I'm pulling the parent card. I don't think she says that, but she just says, we are your parents and you're going to school, and that's final.
Yeah. The mom says, you're the child, we're the parents, and we're split, and we're taking the bill.
Yeah.
We're picking up the tab. That's what she says.
Oh yeah, nice.
We're picking up the tab. And again, she like kind of lays it like heavy. Kind of in a way, I was like, oh, that's like Joe.
Yeah.
You know.
True.
Very Joe.
And when she does kick into strength mode, when she's squaring off with the dad, and when she's being the mom to Joe, that was where the actress won me over, and I went, oh, okay. She is stronger than you at first think she is.
Yeah.
And they maybe could have written her to be a little bit pushier, a little bit more the first time we meet her, she's like, hey, everybody, Joe's almost here, get ready, but be quiet, as opposed to, it would be like, hey, keep your hands off the hors d'oeuvre, she's not even here yet.
Yeah.
And Albert, if you touch that frosting on the cake one more time, they could have given her a little more oomph.
Right.
To give us that at the beginning, and then we would have been all set.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is Joe's mom.
I agree with that.
But that's just one of my many notes. So we get a new big information bomb is lobbed at us. And Joe says, I can't have you doing that just for me. And the parents say, do you think we're just doing this for you?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't think that there's some type of a payoff for us? And she says, when you graduate Eastland as valedictorian, we're going to be sitting next to parents who make 10 times the money that we do.
20 times.
Yeah, he chimes in with 20, but whoa, Joe is valedictorian. That is a new piece of information. And that's a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
And a good, beautiful, wonderful piece of information that is absolutely possible.
Yeah.
And consistent with the character.
Sure.
I am totally loving that. And I loved when they dropped that. So they say you're going to college makes all three of us big winners.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, fine, but there's already a $2,000 deposit due next month. Where is that going to come from? And they're like, and Charlie says, we got it. We drove up in it. And Joe's like, what? Your 66 Mustang? You're the original owner. You love that car.
So I'll be the original seller.
Yeah. Hey. But she says, you mean you put that thing up on blocks when you went to the away, which is kind of funny. Her trying not to say when you were up the river.
Yeah.
Went to the big house. But I did look it up. A 66 Mustang, if he was the original owner, the new price, the price for a new in 1966 was between $2,500 and $2,800.
Whoa.
So since those cars hold their value, and in good shape, a 66 Mustang in 83 would have been considered like a classic car that would have gotten him a handsome price.
Sure.
So Joe is like, but you love that car. And he's like, what? And he says, I knew I was saving it for something important. And they hug. And he says, well, it's about time I started to invest in your future.
Yeah, that was nice.
And Joe says, what about the rest of the year? And the year after that, and the year after that. And he says, huh, you don't take after your mother. You take after your Aunt Evelyn.
Ah!
Sheboygan! And then finally, I'm thinking to myself, we're right here. We are careening towards the final hug and the final.
Yeah.
We are at the resolution point.
Uh-huh.
And then, Mr. and Mrs. Polniacek.
And the audience applauds because she comes back in and she has sparklers and there's monkeys juggling showgirls and
But there was a part of me going, oh yeah, they have to bring Mrs. Garrett in. She's barely been in the show.
Oh yeah, like I literally before she walked in, I was gonna say it's as if they said, "Okay, Charlotte,
Yeah, we gotta.
you're gonna come in, you're gonna do one afternoon, and then go home.
Yeah,
You gotta fuck home."
it's like it's Charlotte's show. We gotta give her something to do.
Yeah.
So,
And during this whole next scene, she's like looking at all of them in this like coy, like, nah, I know what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like as if she's like Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream or something.
Oh,
like she's
yeah.
all knowing and she knows everything's wrapping up the way as it should and the way that she intended for it to. And I'm like, I don't really see that happening. And you weren't here the whole time in order to know these things. I mean, I get it. It's a little tropey and it's cutesy. But, like, I see her, like, in the back, like, yes, these are the facts of life.
if we have but offended thee with these facts of life.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I wasn't mad at it.
No,
And
I'm
here's
mad
my
at
thing
it.
is that the last time she saw Joe tore up the envelope.
Right.
And left. To now see that Joe is there and both of her parents have showed up.
Right.
That's her way of knowing, oh, this shit's not done yet. They
Yeah.
are fighting. They're on my side, kind of a thing. So I didn't mind it.
get
with how
that.
little she had to do in the
It's-
episode, she at least had that she could play.
Sure. And again, it's not so much minding, but it's something I certainly noticed that I always thought would be, like, circumstantial as opposed to what she's about. Does that make sense? Like,
Say that again?
I always figured that it would be something that was more, like, she does that sometimes. But I feel like every Facts of Life I've ever seen ends with her like, yes.
Oh,
I knew it.
Yeah, Matthew complains that she's too perfect.
Yeah.
That she's too all-seeing, all-knowing,
Exactly.
all-wisdom.
That's the thing.
and
She's
we-
like Madame Trash Heap and Fraggle Rock. She knows all.
But the deal is, and Matthew's not wrong. We did have a couple of instances where she was flawed, and we had a couple of opportunities where they could have played it up and they didn't.
Sure.
But yeah, no, that is kind of a problem, and that's a problem Charlotte Rae had with playing the role over the course of all these years. And then, really and truly, the only button, Mrs. Garrett had been at Langley with Blair.
Right.
So it was just Blair coming in with Langley stuff and
Super happy and perky.
super happy.
Saying
and,
like, oh, well, you know,
it's
they
too bad you didn't get into Langley. And Joe's like,
Yeah.
well, I did. Oh my God. So it's a final kind of get Blair's goat moment that doesn't
Yeah.
really pay off.
Well, it's funny because, like, the whole time she goes, it's so great because I got in here because my other friend didn't get in. And she goes, oh, hey, Blake, can I wear one of your Langley shirts? And she got so many of them. She goes, oh, well, you should wear one that's your school. Well, it is my school. See you around campus. And you see her, like, look up for a second, like, it's the worst thing for a second. But then she immediately turns around and she's just happy for her. Because they
Yeah.
can't end it with her being like, oh, great.
Yeah.
She's genuinely like, oh my God, that's so great. But,
Yeah.
like, means it.
Yeah, because they are frenemies.
Yes.
And they're still in each other's corner.
And it turns but it turns on a dime because it has to. And she played it well because of that, but I noticed I was like, oh, that was way too fast for that to be a payoff.
Agreed.
It was too fast.
Yeah. And an interesting moment earlier when Blair tells Joe that she got into Langley at the beginning of the episode.
Right.
They do hug. Joe says congratulations, and they
Yeah.
hug.
And then
it's
she like sniffs her hair a little bit while she's hugging her.
But just I want to point out that shall we remember that 3 weeks ago Joe punched Blair in the jaw
Oh yeah.
for questioning her faith. But bygones.
Yeah,
Big
you know.
bygones.
Sometimes you punch people you want to make out with.
Yeah. So do you have any other things? I've got my final notes I want to give to the
No,
to
nothing
the writers.
really. I mean, I kind of just felt that it was a it ended. And I told you I felt like I didn't really watch The Facts of Life. I watched this episode about Jo and her family, and I was looking forward to more hijinks and the just hijinks at the school with the girls and Charlotte
Yeah.
Rae, and so
This was almost one of those backdoor pilot disappointment shows.
Yeah.
Really.
So and it wasn't even like so bad it was good, or it wasn't even like bad. It was just kind of there.
I mean, I liked it because it was fleshing out Joe's family.
Yeah, I think that
And-
yeah.
And I think that the idea that Joe is in this environment that is not her roots.
Right.
And that finances are always a problem. I think reiterating that is important for us to know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know. I agree.
So here are my little notes. Here are my little tweaks to the script that I will be suggesting to the writers once I purchase my time machine.
Right.
The whole thing of I can't afford to go to Langley. I can't afford it. It costs, what does it cost? $14,000 a year. It's like
6,000 whenever, like, with the
was
scholarship.
the debt that would still be there. It's like, number one, there is such a thing as student loans you can pay off later.
Right.
And number two, why did nobody say they were making college to be this all or nothing package?
Yeah.
It's like, if you know what, we'll get the money. If we don't have the money, you may have to take a semester off.
Yeah.
It's not like high school. You can do that.
You go to a different one. I mean, that being said, I didn't go to college. I went to junior college for 2 semesters, junior college. And barely did anything there. I took a Western. I only did it because there was a theater department, and I wanted to do the shows.
Yeah.
So they said that if I took some classes, then I could be in the shows, and I went, well, okay.
Yeah.
So I took Western Civ, music appreciation, PE, things like that, and.
And now you're a young, struggling actor without a pot to piss in,
Yes.
but you don't have student debt on top of that.
That's what I like about it, though.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing what I like, and I do pretty well sometimes, and then I don't. But at the same time, I don't have all these student loans.
No.
Especially back then, even when I was a kid, it was like more important. You have to go to college. You gotta go, or you have no future.
Yeah.
Like, there was always that when I was a kid, and like hearing that from my parents growing up. My parents didn't really think that so much, but like just hearing that around. And you can see that in this, where it's like, you got in, you're going to go. We're going to figure it out.
You have to go. But there is a sense that she's the smart one in the family, and clearly she's valedictorian.
Absolutely.
But I was the same way. Like, I went to college because it was just the next thing to do.
Right.
Like, it was not that I wanted education. I actually didn't like school much at all. I hated it, too. But my thing was, now we can look back in hindsight, and, you have to go to college. You have to go to that. That's not true. You don't have to go to college. But you have to know your path to know whether it is a college thing or a non-college thing. And you're 18.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knows anything at 18?
I'm just not going to go to college. I'll get a job. That's it. Done. I'm like, no, you can.
Yeah. And here's the deal. Okay.
Semester off.
Do it. Take a year off. You get accepted at Langley. You can ask if it can be deferred a year. That's a thing colleges allow. I believe, at least in the Stone Age when I was in college, they did. And now here's another couple things. Pointing out the fact that the mother, these are so nitpicky, which is good. That means I like the show.
Yeah.
The whole thing of, Mom, you had to struggle and struggle and struggle to pay for Eastland, and this is more expensive. The dad could have stepped up and said, hey, Joe, I'm set now. I've got steady work. I've been only out of prison for a couple of years, and I had the toughest time landing and keeping a job. Well, I've got this now, and I'm more financially secure. I just got a raise.
Yeah.
I will be contributing. Your mother bore that burden all by herself. But I'm here to step up to the plate too, so I want to help. That would have been a nice little extra thing to say. This is a possibility. It's not completely off the table. And then 2 other things. Joe saying, I'm not going. The whole thing of her acting like you said she was fine with it. I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
I think it would have been nice to have her say, I don't want to go. and have her say, and reiterate, I don't want to go. And they have them say, when you thought your mother's $900 was $5,000, you were excited and happy.
Right.
And then when you found out that it was $990, you were disappointed. We're your parents. You cannot lie to us.
Yeah.
You want to do this. Please let us make it happen for you.
Yeah.
That could have been a little moment. And last but not least, wouldn't it have been neat if Joe said, wait a minute, you guys drove up here together? You sat in the same car for an hour and a half? Mm-hmm. And they're like, yes, that is how important this is.
Yeah. I thought about that too. Because I was like, oh, they're divorced. And they obviously, like, because they fight, you know, in that one scene. And you're like, oh, they're obviously not buddies. But yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, they drove up there. I thought they would. I literally the same. I thought they would say something, and they didn't.
Yeah. And so those are just my little tweaks that I thought could have even punched it up better. But that wasn't me fixing broken things. That was me enhancing things that were already there.
Right.
And really and truly, I didn't mind this. Spoiler alert. You want to know what happens down the road?
Yeah.
Charlie and Rose look like they might reconcile.
Oh.
And there's an episode in season, I think it's next season, season 5, where Joe almost regresses to being like a tweenager, where she's like, basically like, my mommy and daddy are getting back together again, and we're all going to be happy and go to the fair and buy lollipops and eat cotton candy. Like,
Oh.
Joe gets into this deluded state. I'm not looking forward to the episode because I feel like it's kind of like, oh, Joe is so practical and realistic.
Yeah.
And that is such a pipe dream thing. Most people, it's like my parents who divorced and I watched the divorce are looking at getting back together. Most people be
It's like, oh.
fuck.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't have personal experience there, but
Sure.
I know people who do.
Sure.
But there we are at the end of another episode. Wesley.
Look at that.
Wow.
I helped. I did the thing. I was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shake and bake.
Shake and
I
bake, baby.
help.
And I helped.
Do you know that commercial?
Yeah.
Is that too old for you?
No, I remember that. Well, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it was on Nickelodeon when I was watching it, but I know it.
It was one of those retro commercials that old people
Yeah.
like David watched.
Right, watch on YouTube, bro.
So I was going to ask you, name a classic commercial from your childhood. I forget what you did last time, but that's I'll put up the shake and bake one.
Yeah, I like that one, but also, I was thinking recently about My Buddy.
The boy doll?
Yeah, My Buddy and Me. Yeah, you remember that? I
Yeah.
had a My Buddy,
You
but it was a
did.
hand-me-down because I was born in '93.
Uh-huh.
And all my cousins were born in like the 80s and stuff. And my brother, I think my brother had it. I think it was a hand-me-down to him too. So by the time I got it, my buddy had seen some better days.
It was their buddy.
It was their buddy.
He had been handed around like a $2 whore.
You know, like whenever you go to like a museum and they go, so you see, the reason that the sculpture is black is because the oils on people's fingers who touch it. That was my buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the Sphinx eroded by the desert winds and the
Right.
sand. I'm going to find that. I'm going to post it on the website.
Okay.
Indeed. So, as we leave, we are still, we need to wash our hands. We've just podcasted, and I think most experts recommend that we wash our hands
And I've been
now.
touching myself this whole time.
And so, I was not complaining. Yes. So, I noticed that, and I was only a little disturbed.
Sometimes I use my foot.
That's not your crotch, your foot is.
Oh,
Yeah. On that note, smooches and goodbye.
it's gooey.
And there you have it. That was Wesley Slade. I have nothing to add. I said everything I wanted to say and then some. Next week, I'm going to be watching Season 4, Episode 22, Take My Finals, Please. This is one of my all-time favorite episodes, and I'm thrilled that joining me for that episode is going to be Ken Reed from TV Guidance Counselor. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you tune back in. Thank you, as always, for listening to this week's show, and remember, The facts of life are all about you. Let's Face the Facts was produced, written, hosted, and edited by me, David Almeida. My theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Our website is facethefactspod.com. You have to drop the let's. And that's where you can find extra pictures, video, and audio extras from the digital cutting room floor. Follow the show on social media. We're everywhere under the handle Face the Facts Pod. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/FaceTheFactsPod. And don't forget, go to your favorite podcatchers and subscribe, rate, and review. Tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.